Good morning, T-Tam fam. Welcome. It's Sunday, September 14th, 7 a.m. Eastern Time for episode 10, which is Staying the Course with consistency and setbacks. Building the future isn't about one breakthrough moment. It's about showing up again and again, especially when it gets hard. And we as a society, for most, when things get hard, we either fully jump in or we withdraw in some sort of capacity, whether it's internally pulling themselves out of the situation or they just try to overcompensate. Um, Progress isn't linear. It's something that you have to be willing to set yourself up to accomplish small goals each and every day to be able to hit what your ultimate goal is. Um, Excuse me. And that's where being consistent, your consistency really shines through. And, a lot of people say, hey, you know what, I'll take, talent over hard work. Well, you know what, if I were to give you player A, give you two players rather, they're both wide receivers, we'll say. One is 6'4", 245 pounds, runs, ran like a 4.5 40, hands like glue, route running pristine. Um, but he likes to party, and he costs his team because he has a bad attitude. As opposed to player B, a little bit smaller, we'll just say 6'2", 200 pounds, not the fastest guy, probably ran a 4.7, really good route runner. Um, his hands are better than average, but he's somebody that, has a regiment and has a regime that he follows each and every day because he takes, um, his craft seriously. So, when you look at it in that sort of perspective, yes, I use football analogies as a big part of my life, but yeah, you may want the bigger receiver, but do you want the headaches that come along with it? So, being consistent is something for you to kind of take and build yourself up in, and really just start small. Um, Now when you apply it to life, it's unglamorous work trying to stay aligned with your vision because it's hard work. A lot of people don't ask themselves the questions. A lot of people don't check in with themselves, and that was something that I learned very, very late in life. Is that I had to take care of myself, and once I started taking care of myself, and I started to kind of put myself in the forefront, then things, excuse me, things started to um, show with my hard work. A lot of it, like, I can attribute it to weight loss. Always been a bigger guy. Um, my weight would fluctuate up and down, and in my early 20s, I was up over 300 pounds, and I got down to 220, and because I was going to the gym constantly, um, and things were good. My metabolism was fast at that point. Not so much now, but but overall, just starting small and setting that trend within yourself is okay. If you care about your health and your fitness, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna start off with 3 days a week. You are gonna do your workout 3 days a week. You're gonna do that for a couple of weeks, and then after say 4 weeks, you're gonna up it to 4 times per week, and then you're gonna do that for another 4 weeks. And guess what? After another 4 weeks, then you're gonna up it to 5 workouts per week, and you're gonna do that for another 4 weeks. So right there, we've already gone through 3 months. 3 months. And if you really think about it, in that first month, you're working out 12 times. In that second month, you're 16 times. And in that third month, you're 20. And when you break it down by day, is, it's 30 days. Some are 31. Let's not count February. But you're able to get your workouts in, and you slowly build up. You don't start working out by, I mean, for most, you don't start working out by um, just jumping in 5, 6 days a week, doing high intensity workouts, trying to lift weights you've never lifted before. You're gonna get hurt, and or you're gonna burn yourself out in that week, and you're gonna be exhausted, and you're not gonna want to go back. And then you're gonna sit around for another couple of weeks, sulking, feeling bad, rehabbing an injury, whatever the case may be. So, um, that's why I say start small, because small habits equal big declarations. Um, when it comes to your mental game, journaling, writing down your day-to-day stuff. What happened in your day? What sort of feelings did you have during that day? Presence in your relationships. Um, Not being physically present. Well, physically present does help, but being also mentally present for your partner and making sure that you make them feel seen, you make them feel heard, because that does matter. It's hard because when it does come to relationships, and I'll do a whole another episode about, my relationships over the years. But, being mentally present for somebody carries a lot of weight. Um, and that was something I was very unfamiliar with um, until recently. So learning about that and understanding and kind of Jesus, excuse me, um, and kind of uh, you know really locking into that aspect it's different, and it feels good, truthfully, when you're giving but also receiving. Steady work ethic. If you work, if you're a desk jockey and you work 8 to 5, you're showing up at 7:30. Show up 7:30 in the morning. Get a jump on the day. You're already ahead of the day by 30 minutes. Um, or if you're in the trades, whether you're in a business for yourself or you're working for somebody, show up early. You know, as the great Tom Coughlin said, um, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And that applies into real world. And that was something probably 3 or 4 years ago. I was in a funk. Like, I just was having a ridiculously tough time sleeping. And I was staying up way too late. And then by the time I fell asleep, I'd sleep through all my alarms. It was causing a serious, serious stake in my job, and I had to, um, I had to sit there and have a real deep conversation with myself and say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you acting like this? Why can't you get it right? And truthfully, it was based around a few things, primarily my health overall, because I wasn't taking care of myself. But once I started getting into my routine where it was like, okay, excuse me, you know what? Instead of going to bed at midnight, we're gonna bump it back to 11:30, and then from 11:30 down to 11, then down to 10:30, and then down to 10, and sometimes even 9:30. It's all depending on how I feel on that day. But it's also waking up, at 5 a.m., 5:30, 6:01. That's my time. In some cases, it's getting up, it's getting out of bed, it's not hitting the snooze button, it's automatically just starting your morning. Another thing that I do is I lay out clothes, for work. Save myself some time in the morning. I prep my lunches, save some time in the morning. So realistically, other than me waking up and taking a shower, brushing my teeth, getting dressed, the only thing I gotta do is make myself breakfast and I'm done. So again, these are all small changes that you can make for your day to day that work for yourself. Now, when it comes to relationships, consistency is um, are you doing what you say and saying what you do? Um, and that's really, you know, again, it's massive because not everybody, not every there are people out there that want actions. They want to be able to have you follow through with your actions and have them aligned with your words. There's a lot of people out there, and I'm guilty of it, where I've said certain things, but I haven't followed through on them, and that's something that I will continue to you know be aware of for myself, um, simply because of you know how I was raised and whatnot. We weren't you know very communicative with each other. So as I've gotten older, I've had to learn, and it's caused me setbacks. Because what happens is you fall into old habits. Why? Because you're used to them. They feel comfortable. They may not be the best, but that's what ultimately happens with a lot of people is they revert back to where they're most comfortable, and those are old habits. And then also like it's losing motivation. It's getting dejected. It's not. You've been working so hard, but you're not seeing the results. You know what? You have to put that on the on the back burner. You can't wait. You can't focus on, just because you're doing something for a week that you're automatically going to get results. This just like everything, it takes time. Like when you lose weight, there's a statistic, and I'll probably get it wrong, but um, that it takes you personally anywhere between 8 and 12 weeks to notice a change within yourself. Think about that. That's 2 to 3 months. Most people will see it outside of you within 4 to 6 weeks. So look at it like that. Is with with whatever it is you're doing, whether it be at work or personal, um, you have to give yourself that time. Time is, you know, it's something that will, help you through. It will guide you. Um, but eventually you will see all of your hard work pay off. Um, just remember, if you're changing, it can't be fast enough. It isn't fast enough. Get that out of your head. Change, just like everything, it takes time. You have to build towards it. You have to get yourself into a routine. You have to follow that routine. Um, and if you follow that routine, then guess what? Over the course of the next 8, 12 weeks, you will see your hard work pay off. So, it's one thing that um, you know, like I related to my fitness journey, and um, I was doing very well. I had, I was down, I was lost weight, I felt good, and then, when I got a shoulder injury, that sidelined me. I couldn't even pick up a bottle of water and hold it like this without it hurting. So, um, that was something where, unfortunately, I had just thrown everything out the window, and um, really kind of felt sorry for myself for a period of time, and then finally it was a shit or get off the pot moment, and I get off the pot, and I started to work out. I was grossly overweight. I was embarrassed to even be in the gym, but I told myself that you know you have to go. One of the things that they say in my gym is the hardest part is walking through the door. Well, there was a point in time where I didn't want to walk through the door. But when I did walk through the door, there was no judgment, just work. And there was, support from, that's why I love CrossFit is, everybody's high-fiving each other. It's not about, how well you did. It's the fact that you completed it. And, that right there was a pivotal moment for me because it's something where, knowing that I was, grossly overweight, but still able to complete the workout, there's a sense of pride that you take in that. So, kind of keep that in mind, when you're along this journey for yourself, is that we're gonna slip. People slip all the time, but you just have to pull yourself back and get on track. When it comes to, when I was, drinking back in my early 20s, it was, it became problematic for me. It wasn't a good fit. I wasn't making the right choices, and I had to kind of sit there and say, hey, what are you doing? And what I ended up doing is I chose to be a productive member of society and be the best version that I can be. And that's what I've been doing for the past, coming on, that's like 19 years that I've been sober. Next year will be 20. So, um, but it's coming in and pulling yourself up and pushing forward. And when it comes to my work again, where I was slipping, I wasn't being a good employee, and I fully admitted that. I took accountability. I always take accountability. That's one thing that you have to do for yourself is take that accountability, because having the truth be laid out to you, by yourself and others, hey, it changes your perspective and mindset. So, if you slip, just understand you have to reset, and that's okay. As if you're able to reset, then you have a strong grasp of your inner self, and you know what you can and can't do. Your mind, like our minds, hold us back from quite quite a lot because of fear, or whatever happens to come about. Setbacks aren't failure, they're feedback. Let me say that again. Setbacks aren't failure, they're feedback. Why? Because everything you go through is a learning lesson. And I use the word learning lesson rather than a mistake, using the word mistake, because learning lesson is a positive way to spin things. It's like you showed up to the date and you wore a you know purple suit. Well, you know if it's all depending on where that date is. You're like, whoops. Oh, this was just a regular restaurant. Oh, I shouldn't have worn the purple suit, but I did. Um, but that would really isn't a setback. That's just kind of a poor choice. I don't even know why I mentioned it. But moving on, the like in a relationship, there's a lot of give and take that you have to be mindful of, and believe me, that is one of the hardest things to do, because at the end of the day, you have two totally different people, and you have two totally different outlooks and thought processes, and how you do things. And you just have to be able to communicate to your partner what's going on. How do we make this better? You know, um, what do we have to do for each other to make the next instant easy? You know, but communication is key when it comes to relationships. When it comes to your professional aspects, your professional work, it's okay to fail. Like there's been times where I've gone in to close a sale, and guess what? They weren't buying. Didn't matter what I said, what I did, what the price was. They just weren't buying. Hey, that's a setback. But what did I learn from that? I learned that persistence and consistency will eventually get me that business. And over time, it did, because I kept myself relevant. I kept myself in there. I sat there and was able to you know, just build a relationship with them. Not talk about business. Just build a personal relationship. Hey, how you doing? How's the wife and kids? Everything good? How's business here, so to speak? Like really tell me some of your struggles that you deal with on the day to day, and just getting that, getting them to open up to you and talk to you. Guess what? That helps you out later on down the line. because you're putting in the work um, to ultimately gain that business. Very rarely will you have, you'll have that one time where you walk into a brand new account, and land them. Hey, if you do that, bam, ring that bell. That's a great day. You know, um, Everything aligned for you. So, um, but usually it's through that hard work. It's not through one meeting. It's through multiple, and it's over a period of 3, 6, 9, 12 months. You know, and like during that, in my life, I've learned how to kind of pause, reset, and recommit without shame. Why? Because I know I'm not perfect. I am never going to be perfect. I'm never going to sit there and expect perfection out of anyone. Why? Because that's unrealistic, right? So if it's unrealistic, then why am I even putting it in my brain? Think about it. Why? I think in reality, I think in, um, when it comes to reality, I think of, that's the only way I deal in truths. It's a lot easier that way. I don't deal in anything else. Um, the biggest thing is you have to emphasize your progress over perfection, right? Because your progress will outweigh your perfection every single time. Because if you try to be perfect, you're just gonna spin your wheels, and you can't be spinning your wheels. So that's why I say take things in small batches, small bunches, check them off, because at the end they're all going to align to a bigger goal, and that's growth. You know, and you can know when you grow. Growth is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's something that you have to give yourself a lot of grace on and understanding why, because consistency compounds over time. And I came up with this saying of doing everything brick by brick, and it's true because you want to be able to build that solid foundation in both your personal and your professional lives. Um, so it's something to always have. Understand what's a brick is big, you know, small. You lay one brick, then you lay another, and you lay another, and lay another, and you take all these multiple bricks. What do you think you have? Now you have a little bit of a wall, and now you have something protecting it. So kind of keep it like that. It's something for you to reference, um, down the line. But you have to understand is that this is growth is an endurance game. It's you know it's seeing long-term changes in yourself as well as in your relationships. Now, whether they're personal or professional, that's a choice for you. Um, but change is necessary, and setbacks are going to happen. But the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is be consistent in every possible manner, and that's something that even today, you know, it's constantly a constant reminder to myself that I have to be consistent in everything that I do. If I say, and also what I say, when I say something, I follow it up. I say, I do what I say what I do. Why? Because I still believe in, you know, the word is the only thing that you have at the end of the day. That's just me being old school, but word means a lot. A lot of people want actions. Okay, good, great. We'll give them actions. You just have to find out, what your person or company wants. And the only way you're going to get that is asking the question. If you don't ask the question, you'll never get the answer. And I've always said the only stupid question in the world, the only stupid question in the world is the question that's not asked. Why? Because when you assume, as we learned in ninth grade English, you make an ass out of you and me. And assumptions are coin flip. You can go 50-50. So try not to put yourself in that position. Remember, you control what you do, both personally and professionally. You control, you drive what you're looking for. You want to be number one salesman in the company, go for it. Understand there's going to be sacrifices along the way. And there will be setbacks, but you have to remain strong. You have to remain grounded um, in your pursuit of that. People in relationships. Oh, I'm in the pursuit of happiness. Perfect. Like stay away from negative people. Stay away from um, negative vibes and all of that. You know, but you do have to. You know, you do have to understand that that stuff's going to come about. It's all about your inner strength, and you are strong enough. You have to believe in yourself, and once you start believing in yourself, things will change. Kind of in closing, is that change isn't proven in the big moments. It's proven in the quiet ones when no one else is watching. And that holds true to something very similar that CrossFit champion Matt Frazier said. Is he didn't get better by doing the workouts in a gym with the community. Is he got better when no one was watching, meaning he was working out at home. He was doing things. So you have to understand that when you're going through change, you're going through growth, is you're going to be doing things. You have to be willing to do things when no one else is watching. You can't be afraid to do things when no one else is watching because you don't need that validation from anyone else. The only validation is you need is from yourself. Is that, hey, you're doing the work, whether it's, in a relationship, in a marriage, in the gym, in your professional life, in your family life, whatever it is that you do it because that's what you do, you know. Um, you know, yeah. I mean, this was a good episode because you can learn a lot about yourself in a very short time, but you can also learn a lot about yourself over long periods of time. And that's one thing that I want you to kind of keep on the forefront, as you're going through your journey. Is change is good, change is necessary. It's good to shake things up. Why do you think bodybuilders sit there and say, oh, I run this program for 8 weeks, or I run this program for 10, or I run this program for whatever, and they switch it up? Why? Because you have to shock your system. You know, um, you definitely have to, because it's good. Your body will react differently because your body gets used to certain things. So if you shock it, hey, it won't know what's coming, so it'll be ready to rock and roll for you. Same thing with relationships is, you know, don't do the same things over and over and over again. You know, do something different. Get creative. Um, Again, like one of the big things that I love referring to is the cards. How deep will you go? That's something new. It's something fresh, and it's something. It helps those that may not be as open to talking kind of get comfortable talking about certain things. So check that out. It's a good set. It's fun. You can bring it with you on a date. Bring a certain stack of cards and ask your significant other or your partner, whomever, the questions and see what sort of answers you get. Because we don't, majority of us don't think of those questions right off the bat. You know, but I want you to comment on how they stay. I want. I screwed that up. When life gets tough, how do you stay consistent? Drop a comment. Let me know, because life will get tough, and you can't fold no matter what. Everything that you go through can be worked through. At the time, it may seem monumental, it may seem impossible, but understand that this is only a small blip in the world of life. is don't fold. Be strong and continue to move forward. With that said, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I appreciate you. Like, subscribe, comment. Um, Next week on the 21st. Um, yeah, 21st? 21st, yeah, next Sunday. Um, you know, got another exciting episode coming your way, but enjoy your Sunday, and we'll see you next week. Take care.